Damian here. Welcome back. Slow travel. Got news. Look at this. The Savy Seahorse is open. Repeat. The Savy Seahorse is open. You might be saying, Damian, what is a Savy Seahorse? And why do I need to know about one? Well, I have to be honest. If you don't know what a Savy Seahorse is now, you probably never will. Welcome back. I'm just kidding. There's nothing to do with a Savy Seahorse. I don't even know what one is or what a Savy Seahorse is. I guess they just sell things with seahorses. But I just wanted to show you that. I thought it was kind of cool. Back to slow travel. The other show, I was talking about slow travel. Why it's so important. I promise you on this show, I'd share personally how you can actually do it. Because you might be saying, Damian, I could never do it. Guess what? I said the same thing. I said, I could never do this. But lo and behold, last 2 years I've done it, I guess 3 or 4 times already, and it's been absolutely unbelievable. So let me grab a seat, and then let's talk about exactly how you can slow travel. All right, so talking about slow travel, I want to talk to you about exactly how you can do it. And I know what you're saying, Damian, I can't do it. And again, that's exactly what I said. When I slow traveled for the first time, it was when I just left my job and I was running my business, but I still wasn't pulling any money out of my business. And I said, this is insane. How am I going to do this? And now I understand some of you might have traditional jobs, and we can get to that in a little bit, dealing with that. But let's just start out with the financial side of it before we get to the actual, well, what do I do with my boss? And I'll make a note and make sure we'll talk about that right next, okay? Jobs and bosses. All right, so first of all, when you slow travel, the first thing you need to do is you really need to sit down and think about what are the real expenses. Because as I mentioned, when you slow travel, it's very, very different when you travel regularly. So when you travel regularly, you're like, wow, there's hotel and there's airfare and all that other stuff, and then there's obviously a ton of money to spend on all these restaurants and hotel cafes and so on and so forth. When you slow travel, you live as a local, and not saying you don't go out to a restaurant, because locals do, but you live somewhere where you can actually cook. So that's the first thing that's going to change, is you're not going to spend, I've been on vacations where sometimes you just can't help, even just having $20, $30 meals for 2 people, you spend $100, $150 a day, and if you were to go away for 30 days, my goodness, you spend $4,000 on food. When you slow travel, you're not doing that. So that's the shift. So you need to ask yourself, what are the real expenses? When you do it the right way, you'll realize that the only real expense is going to be 2 things. One is getting to the slow travel place, which is either your flight, or you can certainly slow travel. You don't have to leave the country to slow travel. I'm slow traveling right now in the Gulf of Mexico and Rosemary Beach. So there's the travel. And then the actual place to stay in, the location, okay? Those are the only real expenses when you slow travel the right way. Not only that, but if you're saying, well, Damian, what about the place? These places can be real expensive. I'll get to that, but in a second, and how to make it not expensive. But you can actually make it no cost if you, depending on where you live, and if you're in the right kind of place, you can actually do housing swaps, where you swap a house with somebody for 2 weeks to 4 weeks to a month and a half or 2 months, in which case there is an opportunity to not spend anything at all for your actual house that you live in. And people swap internationally, nationally, so on and so forth. I'm not a swapper, just because, I don't know, I'm very, very picky. I don't want somebody else using my spoon. I don't know, I'm a weirdo like that, even though I use somebody else's spoons. So swapping is not necessarily for me, although a lot of people have phenomenal experiences with it. So still, I want to make sure you get into the mindset of realizing that slow travel, done right, the only thing you really need to think about is lodging. Well, Damian, how do I get lodging to not be super expensive? Well, the first thing is you stay away from hotels. You are not going to a hotel. When you go to a hotel, you could literally spend, for a very normal, completely forgettable room at, nothing against a Hyatt or a Radisson or something like that, with taxes, hotel fees, you'd be lucky to spend anything less than $120 to $150 a night, which means that you'd spend, over the course of, say, a month of slow travel, you'd probably spend somewhere between $3,500 and $4,500 just on a place. I'll tell you right now, when we slow travel, we spend half that amount. In fact, when we went to Costa Rica and we had a condo right poolside, beachfront, luxurious, well, not luxurious, it was just simple, but luxurious because, my goodness, we were looking at the Caribbean rainforest ocean right from our window. It cost a third of what it would have cost to actually stay in a hotel. It's unbelievable. Now, the reason it gets so inexpensive is, again, because you stay in local places. Now, you can do this through Vrbo, vacationrentalsbyowner.com, VRBO. You can look at Craigslist is another great place. There's homeaway.com. And when you go to these places, what's so interesting is if you look at the place, for example, the place we're staying in now, you might look at how much is it for one night. And for a night, it might be very similar to a hotel, right? $120. $150 a night. But what's so great is when you slow travel, because these people want to book up their places, they don't want to take people in and out for one night at a time. You go from one day to a week, and suddenly it's like, okay, maybe it's $100 a night, but for a week it's only $500. Now, hotels, I've never been to a hotel where they say, oh, if you buy 10 nights, we'll cut down the price 25%. If you buy more, we'll cut it down 40%. Hotels don't do that. Slow travel, that is the norm. So say it's advertised $100 a night, but for a week it's only $500. But the better part is when you really slow travel, that's another reason for the 16 plus days. When you go to 3 weeks or even a month, they might charge $500 a week, but they'll do the whole month for, say, $1,600. So now you're literally paying half. Now, most people, when they go away, it's not unusual to spend $1,600 on a week at a hotel, at a nicer hotel. And here's an opportunity to stay somewhere that's completely entrenched in the culture, really authentic experience, and you get to spend 4 times the vacation. You get to spend a whole month as opposed to a measly 7 days. And I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. When I first heard about doing it, I was like, this is kind of weird, you know, but we've had phenomenal experience. Now, granted, you got to do your research, you need to be savvy, and you need to negotiate, and Shar is actually the family specialist at that, and she gets some phenomenal deals for us, but you really can't do it.